This business update is brought to you by Westpac. Life is eventful. That's why Westpac helps.
It's time now for the close with our business editor, Ross Greenwood. The near collapse of Chinese property development giant Evergrande, Ross, has prompted Australia's banking regulator, APRA, to make inquiries of our big banks, understandably, about their exposure.
Yeah, that's right. So Sky News can reveal this afternoon, Kieran, that the banking regulator has been in touch with our major banks over the past couple of days, just ensuring that it doesn't have, or they don't have, any significant exposure to the potential collapse of Evergrande. Evergrande, remember, is a giant Chinese property developer that has $300 billion worth of debts. At the moment, there's some 1.2 million property owners, Chinese property owners, waiting for properties to be completed. They've already put their money down, and if Evergrande goes broke, those 1.2 million people would effectively lose their money and lose their homes as well. So when it comes to the way in which the world's banks actually interact, because do understand that Evergrande has raised money just not from China, but also from around the world as well, this becomes important. The US Federal Reserve is right now inquiring of US banks. Hong Kong banks are doing the same. This is what our Australian Prudential Regulation Authority told Sky News today, and that is, I can confirm that APRA is monitoring developments in relation to Evergrande. However, we have no further comment. Well, we have been in touch with those banks. We believe they do not have significant exposures, but certainly we can confirm that the banks have been certainly, shall I say, contacted by it. The other one that's interesting here is also big superannuation funds, because they, through global bond funds, sometimes they even invest in distressed debt because the returns are so high. We understand that they also would be the subject of some sort of inquiry as well.
Ross, this comes as Evergrande has raised 1.5 billion US, selling a stake in one of China's banks to a state-owned authority. Does that save the day for this massive entity, this company, Evergrande?
Well, if that doesn't scream bailout to you, then nothing will, because Evergrande has interest payments that are due. So the Shenzhen Bank is a big bank based out of Shanghai. It's been a major financier of the whole Evergrande business the whole way through. So what's happened is the Shenzhen Bank has basically had 20% of its shares sold by Evergrande that they owned that have gone back to a Chinese investment company, which is controlled by no guess here, the Chinese government. But what Shenzhen Bank has insisted with this sale is any money that they've got, the $1.5 billion you're talking about, and it's certainly not anywhere near the $300 billion they require to be bailed out completely, that money goes straight back to the Shenzhen Bank because they've got such big exposures to Evergrande.
Let's go back to this move by APRA to look at our own banks. Is it related in any way to the possibility of a crackdown on home lending? That's about keeping banks and consumers safe as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's the same sort of parallel, Kieran, here, because what happens is in the case of Evergrande, they're trying to ensure that our banks are solid, that there are no nasty surprises in there, that they don't have exposures that they shouldn't have. In the case of housing, it's precisely the same thing. So there's a group of regulators that come together, including the Reserve Bank and APRA and others, that come together on a regular basis. Now, what happens is that they look at the current conditions. And when they met on Friday, they put the minutes out today and have indicated that they are not necessarily comfortable with the way in which housing prices are moving across Australia. And this gives a hint at action in the future. So in this particular statement that has come out from these minutes today, the council has basically said it is mindful of credit growth materially outpacing the growth in household income. So think about this. In other words, the debts that people are taking on are outpacing their household income, or their wages, if you like, and that could add medium-term risks to our economy. So that's a really important aspect of this. There was another thing that they also said, and that is that the council discussed possible prudential, macro-prudential policy response. Now, APRA will continue to consult with the council on the implementation of any particular measure. So that gives you a hint that the very open and free money that's available from our banking system right now for home borrowers may be clamped down upon, especially if they consider that there is risk either to those individual buyers or indeed to the banking system itself.